Dads, when did you look at your son and think, that's my boy? My 19-year-old Jake moved back home after his freshman year at college and immediately claimed our garage as his territory. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, I'd hear the electric saw whirring to life, followed by hours of hammering, drilling, and what sounded like furniture being dragged across concrete. What are you building in there? I'd ask when he emerged around noon, completely covered in sawdust, wood shavings stuck in his hair. Just working on something, Dad. It's a surprise. This went on for 3 solid months. The garage had become Fort Knox. He'd installed a padlock and everything. My wife Linda was convinced he was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe dropping out of engineering school hit him harder than we thought, she'd whisper. He's been out there for 12 hours a day. That's not normal. The smell was the weirdest part. Every time I walked past the garage, I'd catch whiffs of fresh pine, varnish, and something else I couldn't quite identify. Something sweet and clean. Sometimes I'd hear music playing softly, other times what sounded like muffled conversation, even though Jake was supposedly alone. Then the midnight mission started. I'm a light sleeper, and around 11 p.m. every few nights I'd hear our truck starting up. I'd peek out the window and see Jake carefully loading these massive wrapped objects into the bed, things that looked like they weighed a ton. He'd be gone for hours, returning just before dawn. The truck bed empty. Where do you go at night? I finally confronted him one morning. Just delivering some stuff. Don't worry about it, Dad. Linda was convinced he was dealing drugs. What else would explain the secrecy? The weird hours? Maybe he owes someone money from school. I was starting to think she might be right. The kid who used to tell us everything was now living like a ghost in our own house. He'd lost weight, had permanent dark circles under his eyes, and his hands were constantly covered in bandages from what he claimed were little accidents. Then last Tuesday, our neighbor Carol Martinez knocked on our door at 6 a.m., tears streaming down her face. Carol's husband Miguel had died in a car accident 6 months earlier, leaving her with 3 kids under 10, Sophia, 8, Diego, 6, and little Emma, who just turned 4. I need to tell you something about Jake, she said, her voice shaking. I can't keep this secret anymore. My heart sank. Here it comes, I thought, the drug-dealing confession. He's been building something in your garage, she continued. For my kids. For the past 3 months, every single night, he's been sneaking into our backyard and installing pieces of this incredible playground set. I stared at her, not understanding. Come see, she said, grabbing my hand. I followed her to our shared fence line and looked over into her backyard. What I saw took my breath away. There, sprawling across nearly half her yard, was the most elaborate wooden playground I'd ever seen. Not some cheap store-bought set. This was custom crafted, like something you'd see at a high-end park. He told me not to tell you, Carol said, wiping her eyes. Said you'd think he was wasting time instead of job hunting. But my kids, they're different now. They smile again. For the first time since Miguel died, they run outside excited to play instead of just sitting inside staring at the television. He comes over every morning now, Carol continued. Brings them donuts from the bakery, teaches them how to tie knots, tells them stories about engineering and building things. Diego wants to be a carpenter now because of Jake. Emma asks when Mr. Jake is coming over at least 10 times a day. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see Jake approaching. I was gonna tell you after I finished the fort, he said quietly, not meeting my eyes. There's still a sandbox to build, and I want to add a tire swing to that oak tree. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The weight loss wasn't from stress or drugs. It was from working physical labor for 12 hours a day. The dark circles weren't from partying or depression. They were from a kid who cared so much about 3 grieving children that he'd sacrifice his own sleep to give them something beautiful. The midnight deliveries? I asked. Had to install the big pieces when the kids were asleep. Didn't want to ruin the surprise. He shrugged. Carol would leave the gate unlocked for me. That's when I knew. That's my boy.